Welcome back. Today we have a word that I think expresses a pretty important concept. We have an early football pro and a tragic explorer. We'll talk about a fairly amazing bridge, a song, and we have a quote. So grab your favorite cuppa, settle in, and let's have a look. Hi there, and welcome to This Day in History for November 12th. November 12th is the 316th day of the year in the Gregorian calendar, 317th in leap years, with 49 days remaining to the end of the year. Today's word is empirical. Empirical is an adjective that means relying on or based on factual information, observation, experience, or experiment rather than theory alone. If something is empirical, it comes from real-world evidence, what we can see, measure, or test. Empirical means capable of being confirmed, verified, or disproved by observation or experiment. Some example sentences could include, "The study was grounded in empirical data, not speculation," or "Their conclusions were based on empirical observations gathered over years of research." The word empirical comes to us through Latin, Greek before that, words that meant rooted in experience. First known use of the word empirical in the English language is in the 1560s. Empirical. And with that, it's football season, isn't it? We've had football for quite a while now, as evidenced by this item. On November 12th, 1892, a fellow named Pudge Heffelfinger became the first professional American football player on record, participating in his first paid game for the Allegheny Athletic Association. His birth certificate name was William Walter Heffelfinger, sometimes spelled Heffelfinger. Pudge was a nickname he acquired in his youth. He was considered the greatest lineman of his time. The following year, 1893, he coached football for the University of California at Berkeley, and then coached for a couple of other teams after that. After football, he entered the world of business, working in the family shoe store and then in real estate. He was inducted into the College Football Hall of Fame in 1951 and lived to the age of 86. Captain Robert Scott was a Royal Navy officer and explorer, famous for leading 2 expeditions to the Antarctic. The first one was called the Discovery Mission, and it went from 1901 to 1904. He achieved a great deal in that mission. He discovered the Antarctic Plateau, where the South Pole is located, for instance. The second Antarctic expedition was called the Terra Nova Expedition. They had several scientific and geographical objectives for this mission and gathered a good bit of valuable information. They located the South Pole, only to find that Roald Amundsen's team had beaten them there by a little over a month. On their way back to camp from the pole, they perished. Antarctica is some incredibly brutal cold. And so it is that the frozen bodies of Robert Scott and his men were found on the Ross Ice Shelf in Antarctica on November 12, 1912. The San Francisco-Oakland Bay Bridge opened on November 12, 1936. This was about 6 months before the Golden Gate Bridge opened. Also known as the Bay Bridge, it initially carried automobile traffic on the upper deck, with trucks, cars, buses, and commuter trains on the lower deck, but the lower deck was converted to all-road traffic in 1958. Later on, traffic was reconfigured to one-way traffic on each deck, westbound on the upper, eastbound on the lower, and when they did that, they also allowed trucks and buses on the upper deck. A portion of the bridge collapsed in the 1989 Loma Prieta earthquake, causing the bridge to be closed for about a month. There have been improvements made to the bridge over the years, and it's part of Interstate 80 and still carries traffic. San Francisco-Oakland Bay Bridge. This is the birthday of American pop singer Brian Hyland, born November 12, 1943. He had a #1 hit on the Billboard Hot 100 with a song called Itsy Bitsy Teeny Weeny Yellow Polka Dot Bikini in 1960. I remember talking about that song in one of our episodes. He's had a few other hits during the pre-Beatles era, and it looks like he has a website, still working, has a fan page over on Facebook. Looking through the comments there, he seems like a lovely person. Brian Hyland turns 82 in 2025. Happy birthday, Brian Hyland. Today's song is Sealed with a Kiss by Brian Hyland. Written and composed by Peter Udell and Jerry Geld, Sealed with a Kiss was originally recorded by a group called the Four Voices in 1960. That version didn't quite take off, but Brian Hyland did this version of it in 1962, and it did take off, hit #3 on both the Billboard Hot 100 and the UK Singles Chart. It's been covered by other artists like Gary Lewis and the Playboys, Bobby Vinton, and Jason Donovan. Brian Hyland will have been a teenager still, about 18 or 19 when Sealed with a Kiss was released. It has some nice harmonies. Sealed with a Kiss by Brian Hyland. Link in the description. How about that? For today's quote, let's take one from the late great football coach Vince Lombardi, who said, "Football is like life. It requires perseverance, self-denial, hard work, sacrifice, dedication, and respect for authority." Vince Lombardi. Alrighty, y'all take care. Be good to each other. I'll see you next time. And a hearty and grateful shout out to these lovely folks who've bought me a coffee. Thank you so much. And if you'd like to add your name to that list, there is a link in the description where you too can buy me a coffee. Alrighty. And I think that's going to do it for us today. Thank you so much for watching. Consider subscribing if you haven't already. Feel free to share this video with a link in your email, messaging, or social media. If you enjoy this series, you can check out the playlists in the description. You can find me on BitChute, Facebook, Odyssey, Rumble, YouTube, and X, as well as on a blog page called No Really. No Really. No, really. Consider following my Day in History page on Facebook if you're on Facebook. I also have a Patreon account now, or you can buy me a coffee. All those links are in the description. Alrighty, that's all I can think of right now. Thanks again, and I'll see you next time.